Welcome to KMET 1490 AM ABC News Radio and the Southern California Business Report, a show dedicated to highlighting successful Southern California businesses and the people behind them, with Daryl McCance and Yvette Walker. And now, here's Daryl and Yvette.
Thank you for joining the Southern California Business Report on ABC News and Talks, KMET 1490 AM, 98.1 FM, and KMET TV with Yvette Walker and myself, Daryl McCance. We are live blasting our signal from the center of Southern California, the Inland Empire, Orange County, and the greater Los Angeles area to our west, the Desert Empire to our east, Temecula Valley all the way to San Diego to our south, the beautiful mountain communities all the way to State Line to our north. Get us crystal clear live worldwide by going to Google Apps or the Apple App Store and downloading the free KMET smartphone app today. We focus each week on successful businesses in Southern California and the people behind them, serving a local population of nearly 25 million, from awe-inspiring sole proprietors to world-renowned organizations in all sectors of our economy. Today's show, very exciting, we're focusing on the business and secrets of Southern California's local wildlife, animal rescue, and as a bonus, a zoo. You're going to be just absolutely amazed when we get into this. Before we begin today, a special thank you to our team, Mitch, Bill, Sean at the station, and our amazing advisory group from UC Irvine School of Business, teaching entrepreneurship, Bill Morris, Jay Kaplan, catch his show every Friday at 3 p.m., Camelia Rubio, Diane Cavallo, and James Carvin. Special thanks to last week's guest, Lee Cockerell, who, again, three pieces to his background. The star, one of the big stars at the Disney Institute, an author of some amazing publications, books actually, and the former executive vice president of Disney World with over 70,000 employees and 4 theme parks and tens of thousands of rooms. And if you didn't catch that show live, you're going to want to make sure you download it and listen to it. And Yvette Walker shortly will share that whole process. And as customary, Yvette Walker will introduce this week's special guest. Yvette, the microphone's all yours.
Thank you so much, Daryl. It's so wonderful to be here today and to have the honor of introducing Mr. Bill Hoffman. Bill has been on the job at Big Bear Alpine Zoo since October of 2020, so he's relatively new. But Hoffman has spent most of the past 36 years working for SeaWorld, primarily in San Diego, but at other locations around the country. He's excited to make the transition to Big Bear Alpine Zoo. Hoffman's focus has always been on the health and welfare of animals. Hoffman was the zoological curator at the SeaWorld San Diego for the last 5 years, leading and developing a team focused on conservation. I'm dyslexic today. Conservation of marine life. He was the assistant curator of zoological operations for SeaWorld San Diego from 2001 to 2015, where he managed a team that provided care for marine mammals. Hoffman also spent 14 years at SeaWorld San Diego from 1986 to 1999 in animal training. He managed the pilot program for the Dolphin Interaction Program during that tenure. Hoffman received a bachelor's degree in psychology from Bowling Green State University in 1986 and a master's in human behavior and management at National University in San Diego in 1994. Try saying that 5 times fast. Thank you so much, Mr. Hoffman, for being here with us today. We're so excited to learn about what brought you to being a curator at the Big Bear Alpine Zoo and learning all about the past, present, and future of this new project.
Well, thank you very much. I'm excited to be able to talk to you guys. I love animals, and this opportunity came up, and I could not ignore it. I had to pursue it. I was thrilled to find out that I was selected for the position. I have not looked back since. This is a great place.
Well, for those that are listening, you know that Yvette Walker and we are always looking for secrets. And right off the bat, we have 3 secrets. One of the best kept secrets in Southern California is the Big Bear Alpine Zoo, only one of 2 alpine zoos in the nation. We have a new facility that is, over double the size. It just recently opened. And we've kidnapped Bill Hoffman, and we got him up there now. We got a curator that is excited about taking this to the next level. So, Yvette, you go ahead. You got an amazing question that's going to really open things up. So you take it from here.
Well, I'm a little bit spoiled because I had the very distinct pleasure of going on Sunday and enjoying the beautiful new zoo and experiencing firsthand just the environment that has been so thoughtfully created for all of these rescues, which really all of these animals are rescues and they're being rehabilitated. So, Bill, can you share with us a little bit about how that rehabilitation process unfolds at the Big Bear Alpine Zoo, and share with our viewers what makes the Big Bear Alpine Zoo different from, any other zoo?
Well, great setup, and thank you for that. The zoo we have here, all of the animals are here because they need to be. So these animals have been rescued, rehabilitated, and the ones that can be released, about 80% of all animals that we take in are returned to the wild, which is a great statistic. And that is the exciting point. The ones that can't be released, we provide a home for. So it's not just a collection of animals. It is actually a sanctuary where people can come. They can learn about these animals. They can learn about the effects that people have on them. And then they can take that with them. And when they interact with animals in the wild, they can apply what they've learned here. Simple things like don't throw apple cores out the window. You might think they're biodegradable, but they also smell really good and they're delicious. So animals in the wild will come and try to find that apple core, and they'll be right by the side of the road where it's very dangerous for wildlife. So a lot of little things like that, we try to attach to the animals, to that inspiration. When people see them up close, we like to give them action items that they can take home and affect change in the animal's natural environment.
So as far as a zoo that would be, a more traditional zoo as compared to the Big Bear Alpine Zoo, since you've just, you're on there looking at it with fresh eyes. What's the unique characteristics, one versus the other, side by side? What would you say on that?
All our animals here are local, with the exception of a couple of snow leopards, which are from the Himalayas, not local at all. And
there you go.
You can come here and see black bears. You can see grizzly bears, bobcats, mountain lions, bald eagle, golden eagles, red-tailed hawks, great horned owls, screech owls, like I said, bobcats, wolves, coyotes. I mean, it just goes on. And these are all animals that needed to be taken care of. Some were nuisance animals, meaning that they got in a little bit of trouble. They made some bad decisions. And like I said, they have really good sense of smells, and they're very smart. And we have a couple of black bears that decided to visit some local farms, and they got themselves in trouble. One eating watermelon to the point where he gorged himself on watermelon. The other one on a honey hive, a honey farm, where he got into trouble with honey. And so he earned the name Pooh Bear because Pooh Bear loved honey. And so you get to know these animals and you get to see them really close. The zoo is designed in a way to bring people and animals really close in a way that inspires active conservation. So we really want people to come here and see these animals and see how awesome they are and how cool they are. And then we want to affect change. One of the biggest things for me, kids love animals and kids get excited about animals. When I see adults get excited about animals, that really does it for me because they kind of let down their guard a little bit, and you can see the kid kind of emerging, and you can see the excitement. That really gets me going. That really makes me happy.
Absolutely.
So I already shared with Mr. Bill Hoffman my weakness, and that is grizzly bears. Okay. This zoo, the Big Bear Alpine Zoo, just drives me crazy. I had so much fun. You know, I could have been there for 6 months. It was just and we could talk about, porcupines we could talk about all the different animals, but those grizzly bears, and one in particular, a big, giant grizzly bear, and his name is Harley. What an entertainer. And he, in the new zoo, he went from the old zoo where he had a nice suite. Now he's got a luxury suite. And we'll talk a little bit about his new luxury suite, but you can literally drive to the zoo, watch Harley. I mean, it's just unbelievable. This is such a massive, beautiful, entertaining animal. I mean, he is just so relaxed, and all the animals up at this Big Bear Alpine Zoo, they seem to just have this special connection, because in some of these animals, you're literally inches away, maybe feet away. And so it's just, I mean, they are so comfortable with the people are so comfortable with them. You have a weird connection with every single animal, whether it's like you said, it's the wolves or the black bears or the grizzly bear family. And this is the real deal. This is mom, the son, which is Harley, who's gigantic, and the sister. And you just see the interplay. And, this is not a movie. This is not a TV show. This is the real deal. And you can see how well cared for they are by Bill Hoffman and his crew, which we're going to talk about. Christy and Summer think they're off the hook, but we're going to be talking about them and more here in a minute. But the bottom line is, let's kind of paint a picture for the listeners. By the way, those who just tuned in, we are here with Bill Hoffman, the new curator for the Big Bear Alpine Zoo in Big Bear. To me, one of the best kept secrets within not only the mountain communities, but within Southern California. If you could paint a picture, Mr. Hoffman, of the new luxury suite for these grizzly bears, and then we can kind of go from there. But let's paint a picture of what these characters are doing. They're having more fun up there than a barrel of monkeys.
Right. So we have this beautiful, huge exhibit for these animals. And when we first put them in there, it was landscaped with all kinds of grasses and native plants and trees. And we let them out. It's got a upper pool. It's got a waterfall that goes into a lower pool, and it's got some large culverts that act as dens for them out on display. And then if you go into the side of the building, there are dens that are heated, and there's 3 different bedrooms in those dens. So if they want to be together, they can be together. If they want a little space, sometimes you need a little space from family, they can spread out a little bit. The first thing they did when they went out on that display with all that nice landscaping is they destroyed it. And they did what bears do. They dug, they put it in the water, they put the trees to one side. They really, really made some personal modifications to the landscaping.
TIs, right? Some tenant improvements there.
That's right.
Goodness.
and one of the things we're challenged with is coming up with different ways to keep them interested. So we get fresh cut browse. We're up in Big Bear. There's trees everywhere. So we cut browse and we put them around different places, and we hide things so they have to forage for it, and they have to dig, and they have to use those natural behaviors to acquire their diet. Because animals are a lot like electricity and water. They take the path of least resistance and they gravitate to the lowest possible point. Meaning, if I don't have to work for it, I'm not going to work for it. And that's just how they are programmed. They tend to, like people, they like convenience. And so we got to make sure we keep them stimulated and keep them engaged, because they'll just turn into big couch potatoes. One of the things we have for them is a substrate pit. And so this is a big concrete pit full of wood chips and bark, and they can dig in there and they can make a bed. At first, when I heard about the substrate pit, I was a little skeptical, but man, do they love it. They dig in there, they make holes, they bury each other, they get in there, it's like a giant beanbag chair for a grizzly bear. And it's right in front of these floor to ceiling windows, so you can see right through there, right to that dig pit, and you can watch them dream. You can see their paws twitch from time to time. So these bears are set up.
And now Harley, the one that is just an entertainer, if there ever was an entertainer, who's, what would you use to, how would you compare him? What personality have you guys assigned to him?
Well, I look at him and he's like a giant Marmaduke. He's big and he doesn't really recognize that he's full grown. I think he's still a kid in his mind, and he's super entertaining. He's very animated. He follows mom around. He moans when she doesn't give him enough attention. So he's a big spoiled kid.
Oh, that's beautiful. And that's
Nice.
something that I noticed being there is watching all of the animals just looking so comfortable, so content, so at ease in their environments. I mean, there was another small black bear literally with her, I think her hind legs up against the window, just sprawled out in front of the sun, taking in the sun and, enjoying people walking by and, everybody having a sun bath and enjoying their environment. All the animals look so relaxed, so content. So when you were telling us the stories about the rehabilitative processes that they had gone through, some of them were amputees, some of them were blind, some of them only had one eye, and you're looking at them, but they look so healthy and so happy and so content. So that told me that, obviously what you and your team are doing is just incredible for these animals. To see them in this state, in their natural state, is just something that brought me a lot of joy and a lot of satisfaction in knowing that there's an organization like the Big Bear Alpine Zoo that is geared and aimed at caring for animals in this way, especially such exotic animals. So can you share with us maybe one or two of the more challenging rehabilitation processes that you have had to go through with one of your animals at the Big Bear Alpine Zoo?
Sure. So we've had, there's a couple of things, and all of the stuff that you said about the animals, that's really a testimony to the keeper staff. They love those animals and they have a heart for them. They ain't in it for the money. It's all about the animals. So a couple of rehab stories. We have a fox named Mozart. He is a gray fox. He was hit by a car. He had a broken pelvis. He had 2 broken hind legs. We were at the decision point of whether we try to rehabilitate this animal or whether we choose humane euthanasia. Always a really difficult decision. We worked with him. We have Yvette, Dr. Loudis, who's down the hill. He comes up once or twice a month, and we decided to do our very best with him. We were able to get one of his legs to heal, and his pelvis healed well. The other leg was not recoverable. It was broken in such a way that it could not be mended. So we ended up amputating that leg. So he's not a candidate for release. However, because we have experts here, because we have
I think we may have lost signal, so we will be enjoying Bill Hoffman momentarily. That's one of the joys of being up on the mountain. So
live at the Big Bear Alpine Zoo.
Yes. We're going to, listeners, we're going to take a break. And when we come back, we're going to go deeper into the Big Bear Alpine Zoo. And we will have the new curator, fresh in from SeaWorld, who's taken over this beautiful, beautiful facility that's owned and operated by San Bernardino County momentarily. We'll be right back from break.
Are you paying rent because you think you cannot afford to live in your dream home? Are you renting because you don't believe that you have the down payment funds to purchase your own home? The Siegel lending team at ronismylender.com has up to $25,000 to help qualified people purchase their own home at amazing interest rates. Contact the Siegel lending team today at ronismylender.com. Again, RonIsMyLender.com, license under NMLS 217037. RonIsMyLender.com.
Take KMET 1490 AM with you everywhere you go by downloading our free smartphone apps found on the KMET website, KMET1490am.com. You can also go to the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store on your phone to download the free app. Now you can listen live or play any of your favorite programmers' podcasts using your smartphone. Go to KMET1490am.com and download your free phone app today.
Join Daryl McCance and Yvette Walker each Tuesday at 4 p.m. on ABC News Radio, KMET, and Internet KMET TV for the Southern California Business Report. The show highlights successful businesses and individuals behind them. Daryl and Yvette interview the incredible people managing these enterprises that range from awe-inspiring sole proprietors to world-renowned organizations. The Southern California Business Report, Tuesdays at 4 p.m. on KMET AM, FM, and Internet KMET TV.
Hello, listeners. This is Christopher from The Christopher Show. Hey, if you missed one of our shows here at KMET, don't worry about it. You can go to our webpage, and that's KMET1490am.com. Go to the homepage, click on the SoundCloud tab, and hear any show anytime you want.
You're listening to the Southern California Business Report on KMET Radio, 1490 AM, Ontario, Rancho Cucamonga, Redlands, and Palm Springs. ABC News Radio.
Welcome back, and thank you for joining the Southern California Business Report. We are here with Bill Hoffman, Curator, Big Bear Alpine Zoo, and everybody should be excited to know that we have Bill back on air. We had a temporary disconnect. What is the altitude up there in Big Bear?
We're at 6,900 feet here, and then when I go home, I go up a whole nother 350 feet. So we're at 7,250 at my house.
Yep. So the it's a little colder, a little hotter, and
right now it's perfect.
And now it's absolutely perfect. Mentioned a minute ago that we couldn't be more thankful to the county of San Bernardino, who has spent millions of dollars, and this facility is new. It's brand new, and and the wildlife there now has been upgraded, each one of them, to luxury suites. So we talked about the luxury suite for the grizzly bears, and so as you kind of visualize the zoo, what's next door to the bears, or do we want to talk about the bears a little more? Because you got the grizzly bears, the black bears. What other bears are up there?
Oh, grizzly bears and black bears. That's the type of bears. And right next door to the bears on one side are timber wolves, and on the other side are snow leopards. So nice. We have kind of a unique combination. And the snow leopards are here because of the climate. It's an alpine zoo. It's one of only two in the country, which also makes it unique. And they were part of a SSP program through the AZA. And the AZA is Aquariums and Zoological Association. And the SSP program stands for Species Survival Plan. So the Zoological Association has these programs where they focus on conservation and breeding because these animals are critically endangered. And so by having breeding programs, they can eventually repopulate their natural environment. Now, the two that we have are sisters from the same litter, and they have a genetic defect. Their one left eye was not fully developed, and it had to be removed. So because of that genetic defect, they are no longer allowed to participate. They're no longer in the breeding program. And right. So they needed a place for them. And because we're an alpine zoo and we are a sanctuary for animals, we are a perfect fit for snow leopards.
That is classic. So they are your out-of-town guest. So
that's
you have
right.
Two out-of-town guests, with our home field group. Now, is my understanding correct that we're up to about? Well, you tell me, how many different species are there approximately?
We have about 55 different species, and
Nice.
we have different individuals represented within those. We have a very large collection of birds, things you wouldn't think of. We have a woodpecker. We have stellar jays. We have a burrowing owl. We have an eastern screech owl. And you might be, why do you have an eastern screech owl if you're on the West Coast? That eastern screech owl hopped a ride on a tree, came all the way from the East Coast all the way to the West Coast. And when they located him, he needed a place to live. We needed a place to rehabilitate him. And so he came to the Big Bear Alpine Zoo.
That is hilarious. Yeah, for those that have not been to the Big Bear Alpine Zoo, you are in for a treat. You know, like I said, from the porcupines to the beavers to all the things that you have heard about. But in my case, I've never seen them. You know, and when you go to many zoos, you expect to see these magnificent animals. And as a kid, I would come home. It's like, you know, wow, I saw this and this and this. But, you know, if I could have just seen a grizzly bear, you know, that would have, my life would have been complete, you know, and, you know, or any of these amazing, like you talked about the mountain lions. I will tell you, when you're inches away from a mountain lion, wow, what an amazing creature to look at. They look like they are the world's fastest animal. I mean, just the rippling muscles, and they just, the way they move, it's just, they don't even appear to be real. I mean, it's like, wow, I would sure prefer to have the arrangement at the Big Bear Zoo where I could interface with a mountain lion. That would be, yeah. So now share with your observation, because you're seeing behind the scenes, and you talked about the relationship the animals have with the caretakers, with the public. Give us a little insight what you've observed, because this is what you do. You're the expert on this subject.
Yeah. So getting back to the mountain lions, the thing that I love about the mountain lions and the snow leopards and the bobcats, they're all cats, and they have this cat attitude, and they just look like, yeah, I get you, but you know what? I don't want to. I choose not to. And they're just really cool animals. The ones we have, because they were orphaned and raised by people, they're very comfortable around people. And for the most part, I think that's a pretty good thing. But they also don't have that natural fear of people. So even though they're well trained, they're very healthy, they got a great environment, you can never take them for granted. You have to treat them with respect. Summer and Christy, we talked a little bit about them. They're the two leads here. They've been around here. Summer's been here for 17 or 18 years. Christy's been here for 29 years.
Wow.
These animals know their voice. They know when they're approaching the exhibit, you can see them kind of look up and they're like, oh, look, it's Mom. And they really respond to them. And it's because they have a relationship. They have a bond that you can only get by spending time with animals. Animals and people, whether you're dealing with people or you're dealing with animals, really the currency of a good relationship is time and time spent. And these people have put in their time, years and years and years of taking care of animals, making the tough decision to stay a little longer because that's what the animals need. They might miss holidays, they might miss vacations, but they are dedicated and committed to these animals. And you can see it every time they walk down the pathways. The animals look and they get excited because they know that those are the people that have brought them back from the brink of, not surviving. Yeah. And spent time with them and really took the time to take care of them. And so it's really neat to see that. And the other keepers are learning from them. And they're the ones, we have some keepers that are experienced from other zoos. And they are very familiar with operating new modern facilities like this. And we have Summer and Christy who are very familiar with these animals. And together, the two of them mesh really, really well. And so we have a great team of people. We have some people who are still learning, but they're learning from the best. And I think we're all learning from the animals. So that's the thing about relationships. And whether you've been around like I have and seen different relationships, you really know that those shared experiences are what creates the bonds and those memories that you have with other people or other animals. If you have, pets at home, you recognize the fact that the animals really respond to attention and they respond to time, just like people.
Fantastic.
Imagine that. And one of the things that I really enjoyed, first of all, we can't complete this show without hearing about the Arctic fox, because that story just was too funny and too adorable, and to me was one of the fluffiest, cutest animals. I just wanted to go hug it. It was so adorable. But looking at the different dynamics within your zoo, how do you see the next 5 years, 10 years playing out as you become, a hub for educational groups like the Boy Scouts, the Girl Scouts, field trips, all of these wonderful opportunities to learn and engage with these animals and learn about the rehabilitation process and maybe steer, some of our youth into that field at some point?
Well, you really hit it on the nail on the head. We have historically done programs, and we've done different events where we bring people in for things like National Bear Day and Wolf Day, and we do a Halloween celebration where we bring people in. We do flashlight safaris where we go around and see the animals that are nocturnal at night. So we've had to kind of pull back on those, not only because it's a brand new facility, but there's a virus out there apparently that's caused a little disruption. And because of the pandemic, we've had to change our operations. We can't have people grouping together. And so we're just chomping at the bit. Now that the vaccines are coming out and we're able to reach out a little bit more and entertain guests a little bit more, get more people in here, I think it's just the sky's the limit. And we do want the special events. And I think as summer continues to roll out and restrictions get, pulled back a little bit, I think we'll be in great shape to really have some tours and some programs to get people up front and excited about animals.
Okay, now, they say that whenever you have little kids around or animals, everything goes sideways, right?
That's right.
So Yvette and I, we have a process where, our show is focused on these amazing businesses in Southern California and the people behind them. And we always typically, but like Harley got in the way, that big character. We want you to, if you could, kind of go down memory lane and just as you think of like SeaWorld, we don't want to cheat old Shamu. Everybody, we love Shamu and all the gang down there. Just kind of take us back, from day one and just kind of bring us right to this point so that our listeners can have a little deeper understanding of where your background is, because as Yvette Walker just said, we're going to end this with what's coming up. Where do you envision this? So let's, Harley cheated us a little bit. We got all excited about that big Marmaduke grizzly bear. But yeah, just kind of go back to your how many years were you at SeaWorld, by the way?
I was at SeaWorld for just over 36 years.
Wow.
And that's actually in the zoological aspect. I started in SeaWorld in 1980. And if you do the math, that's 41 years, 40 years. SeaWorld of Ohio in 1980. And I started off wearing a costume. I needed a summer job. And I actually went to SeaWorld. I don't want to admit this live, but I will, to kind of pursue a relationship with a girl. I was young. She was cute. She worked at SeaWorld. I wanted to work at SeaWorld. And I worked in the entertainment department for the summertime. And I worked there for about 2.5, 3 summers. Then I was entertaining at the Sea Lion and Otter Show. I did a pre-show entertainment for that show, and I became familiar with the sea lions and the trainers. One of the trainers slipped and fell and got injured. I was there. They asked me if I wanted to fill in and start doing the very basics. And that means cleaning poop, scrubbing gates, preparing diets, all the glamorous stuff. And so I did that. And then after 2.5 summers of that, I graduated from college with a degree in psychology from Bowling Green. I studied learning and memory because it was interesting to me. Little did I know that it was going to be a direct application to my job. I got a job training sea lions in San Diego in '86. I worked at Sea Lion Show for 9 years. From the Sea Lion Show, I went to the Killer Whale Stadium, and I worked there for about 2 years. Then I went back to Sea Lion and Otter to put in a new show. And then I worked there for another 5 or 6 years. I went to the bird show, Wings of the World. They had 250 free flight birds. And I was there for 2 years. And then I went, during that time, I was getting my master's. I went from that show to the dolphin show, and I was there until '99, where I went to Busch Gardens, Tampa, and I was their curator of behavior there. And I learned about rhinos, hippos, giraffes, zebras, hyenas. We trained it all. Cape buffalo, really a great experience. Gorillas, chimpanzees. I came back in 2001, back to San Diego, SeaWorld, worked with dolphins again. That's when we kind of formalized the Dolphin Interaction Program, which was the pilot program for Discovery Cove, which is in Orlando, Florida. That's a free standalone park. Then I started at, I went there. I went to the Animal Ambassador team, where we actually took animals out to visit different places. When SeaWorld went public, I think it was back in 2013, we actually had otters on the Wall Street, on the floor of the stock exchange, otters and penguins and performers. And that was a great experience. And then from there, I went to the wild Arctic and sea otters. So I got to spend time with sea otters. And you want to talk about a conservation story. There is a facility in Monterey Bay Aquarium, and they've started this great program with sea otters, where it is a surrogacy program. Sea otters naturally, especially during stormy weather, the pups get separated from their mom and they can't find each other. Those pups can be rehabilitated, but trying to reintroduce them is very, very difficult and not very successful. They had the great idea of, let's partner with these sea otters that we have, previously stranded otters, females, and let's pair these pups and let the moms raise them. And so they did it in such a way, it's remote, there's no interaction with keepers or trainers. They just give the otters the food, they monitor the health of the pup, the mom does all the work, they take this pup and they test it. Once it can eat solid food, they evaluate it, they put a tracking device and they release the pup. It's 98% successful. So SeaWorld is coming on board with that. That's going to be part of their program. I was a big part of that. And then I heard about this little zoo up in Big Bear. And I was really intrigued because I, like some people, didn't know that there was a zoo in Big Bear. I dug a little deeper. I found out there was an opening. I applied for it because it is 100% about the animals here. And not to take anything away from SeaWorld, they've had to change their focus a little bit on different demographics. They've put in some roller coasters, they're putting in some rides, and I think that's great because they bring the people in, then the people learn about the animals. This place is 100% about animals. And it's not just the animals you see on display. It's about the animals you don't see on display. It's about the success stories of reintroducing the animals back into their natural environment. And this zoo, because it is a sanctuary, the best type of sanctuary is an empty sanctuary. And that's where I hope we get someday, where animals aren't getting hit by cars, where they're not being illegally traded, where they're not being brought in as pets, where they're not being confiscated, where they're not being picked up as pups and mishandled. So my goal is to get the animals back out into the wild as much as possible. The ones that can't, we're going to take care of them. And I mean, we have hedgehogs, we've had chinchillas, we've had all kinds of animals because this is the last stop. If an animal is headed for euthanasia, we will do everything we can in our ability to make sure that we can provide a home for it.
Well, you know what? Thank your staff when you encounter all of the officials from the county. Let everybody know that Yvette Walker and I, and our listeners are just so grateful, and we intend to continue to sound the alarm. We're going to have you back many times. We're going to be talking more about this. For those that just tuned in, we are here with Mr. Bill Hoffman, our new curator that we've kidnapped, and now we got him up at the Big Bear Alpine Zoo. He's excited to be there. We're excited that he's there. And a brand new facility, a brand new curator, luxury suites for these amazing animals. And I think one of the biggest secrets of all is the Big Bear Alpine Zoo that's been there since 1959. I always tell everybody it's 100% substance. It's amazing how, so many things that we see, we go different places and it's like, okay, I went there and, I experienced it, I paid 1X and, I think the value is 1X, it's all fair. You go to the Big Bear Alpine Zoo and you pay 1X and you get 100X and you go, this is overwhelming. I mean, this is just, it is one of the best kept secrets. It's one of the best values. Be prepared to see animals that you've never seen before. Be prepared to see happy animals that are happy to see you. The interaction between the guest and the animals, you're inches away. You're not, it's not 5 miles away, through a telescope. I mean, you are right there in the middle of it. And you can just tell these animals are, you shared earlier with me that they know they've been rescued and they're great and they're grateful. How do they know? I don't know, but they know. And you as a curator and your team, they feel it. As a guest up there, I felt it. I couldn't believe how relaxed the animals were. Bald eagles inches away and mountain lions inches and feet away. I mean, it's just unbelievable. Grizzly bears. I mean, I'm still just Harley. I could just sit there and watch Harley for hours.
Oh yeah.
He's got a tree limb that's 6 inches around, 6-inch diameter, 10 feet, 12 feet long, and he picks it up like it's a toothpick. And he was actually kind of using it as a toothpick, entertaining as could be. And it was just like, wow, what an amazing group of animals. Now, since you brought Yvette and I up to speed on your rich, deep, multi-decade history with SeaWorld and aquatic life and that whole element, you just had some special guests that just had a chance to experience the Big Bear Alpine Zoo for the first time. If you're comfortable, if you could share with our guests the feedback you got from your colleagues, because they were caught off guard, I understand.
Yeah. So I had a friend of mine come up I'd worked with for years. I started work with him at the Bird Show back in 94, I think, 95. And we worked together in various positions since then. And he was also on the Animal Ambassador team with me. And coming from SeaWorld and seeing this zoo through his eyes was really remarkable. And it's just so different. It's not like apples and oranges. It's like apples and caviar. It's that different. And it's kind of like when you have a large facility like SeaWorld, it's huge. It's 250 acres, I think. And this is 10.5 acres. By comparison, it's a macro and a micro facility. We are able to do so much more with the individual than SeaWorld is because they are appealing to a big audience. And they go a mile wide, an inch deep. We go an inch wide, a mile deep. And the difference is the experience that people get here is a lot more concentrated than it would be at a facility like SeaWorld or some of the other large zoos. Yeah, you see a lot of animals, but do you really have a connection with them? Do you really get a feeling for the individual animals like you do here? All these animals have a story. And that's the part that I really want to relate. They're individuals. They represent a species, and each one has its own unique story of why it's here. So
isn't that great?
Yeah, it is.
I love it. And one of the things that I love about your efforts is that you have such a rich, deep, diverse background with so many different animals, sea life, safari life, alpine life, so many different animals. And one of the things that I would like you to share is to share your view on what the common thread is to successfully, care for these animals and in today's case, rehabilitate them. What would you say is the common thread, regardless of the species, but just viewing it as, an animal planet, I guess?
I think there's two. And I mentioned time earlier. I really think that time is the currency of relationships. And when I have two daughters, and one of them's 28, one of them's 21. It took me 7 years to convince my wife to have another one after the first one. And really, one of the things that people used to say, they'd rationalize busy lives, and they'd say, it's not the quantity of time, it's the quality of time. It's both. You really have to have both. You have to have quantity and you have to have quality. And it doesn't always mean that things are going to be great. I'm sure that some of the animals here would prefer not to have a physical. They would prefer not to be, restrained. In some cases, they'd prefer not to be treated in some cases, but we know that's the greater good. It's just like with kids. They don't want to brush their teeth. They don't want to get a flu shot, but it's the right thing to do. And they learn to trust you. And that's the other element. I think trust is vital for a healthy relationship. And I think the animals know that because of their background, they know that we're here for them, and that even though it might be uncomfortable for a little bit, it's for the greater good. And they do have an innate trust of us because we spent the time and because we invested in them. They recognize that we are trustworthy.
So since we mentioned your two secrets up there, Christy and Summer, we're going to have you mention your daughter. What's your daughter's names? Because I don't want you getting in trouble when you get home. Give them a shout out.
So I have my older daughter's name is Suki.
Okay.
And she is an emergency room nurse up in Oregon.
Nice.
And her husband is a sheriff's deputy. So they are my two heroes that live up in Oregon. My youngest daughter's name is Paris, and she's studying environmental science and sustainability. So she is my third hero because she is going to save the world, literally.
Nice.
And so between those three, they make me look really good. And it is by the grace of God that they turned out so well.
Isn't that great? Now, have they been to the Big Bear Alpine Zoo yet?
Yes, they have.
What feedback did you get?
They know somebody who can get them in there. And their feedback was that it was great. And there was a time where I was considering retiring from the animal business. And then when I recognized the fact that the zoo had an opening, it kind of changed everything for me. And so they are thrilled to see me with animals. They know how much I love them and how much I have loved them historically. And they're just a part of me. And I think that they see that.
I love it. I love it. And for those that just tuned in, we are here with Mr. Bill Hoffman, the brand new curator with decades of experience, who's now up there with all of our wonderful animals at the Big Bear Alpine Zoo, from bald eagles to grizzly bears to black bears to, we have our out-of-town guest, the two snow leopards. And tell me again where they're from.
They're found in the Himalayas.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So they're out of town.
They're a little bit out of town. Yeah.
That is, and it's a rescue, so you have that rich wildlife reserve, the rescue component to it. Like, it was really interesting the way you put it, where as the public, we can come up and just see these amazing, healthy, wonderful animals. But behind the scenes, what we don't see are animals that are about ready to be released into the wild.
Correct.
And then also there are some of these little rascals that got in trouble, and they're rehabilitating. They're in your rehab center that soon we'll be able to see. And we like secrets. So do we have any of these rascals that got in trouble that will be all healed, that'll be healed up, that we'll be able to go up and visit with?
I got a couple success stories. One, I was mentioning earlier before the break about the gray fox named Mozart. Yep. He was introduced to the other gray foxes, and they're all getting along great. So now you can see these 3 gray foxes. Today, we introduced another red fox. He is now right next door to the other red foxes, and his name is Friar Tuck, and he will be introduced. He was from animal control, and red foxes, once they are, if they come in on rehab, or if they're a nuisance animal, they cannot be returned to the wild, especially in Big Bear. They're non-native in Big Bear. So he is going to meet all his buddies, and probably in a week, they will all be together, maybe a couple of weeks, depending on how things go. The way we do that is we introduce the new fox in an adjacent enclosure so they can see the other fox, they can smell the other fox. Our job is to observe the interactions through the barrier and see how they're looking. If they look good, then we can accelerate the introduction process. If there's a lot of barking and snarfing, we will slow down the introduction process. And it's a recipe that works really well. We're able to introduce the foxes, and so we're excited about that. The other one is we had a gopher that was brought to us. And this gopher, it looks like a hamster. It could be a hamster if you painted its face a little bit. It was about this big. We assessed the gopher. The gopher is healthy. The gopher is now back out in the wild, being a gopher. We have a couple of great horned owls. One is going to be releasable. One is not. One had a fractured and a dislocated shoulder. Fortunately, we don't have to amputate, but because of the nature of the injury, he's not going to be able to hunt or to fly. The other one looks great, and probably in a couple of weeks will be released. One of the things we're doing now is we are videotaping the releases. We put them on our Facebook so people can learn about who we really are and what we do.
Nice. Speaking of Facebook, Yvette Walker and I, we cannot thank you enough, Mr. Hoffman, for coming on today. This is the beginning. We're going to have as much promotion of the Big Bear Alpine Zoo and you and your staff going forward. And Yvette, can you take us out? Let everybody know how they can see this interview.
Yes,
and others.
Please. Everyone look for us on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Instagram. Check us out on scbrtalk.com. And don't forget to download the free live streaming app on Google Play or the Apple App Store. Check out our YouTube channel and download our interview with Lee Cockrell, former Executive Vice President of Operations for the Walt Disney World Resort in Lake Buena Vista, Florida, a position he held for 10 years. His responsibilities encompassed a diverse mix of operations, which included 20 resort hotels with over 24,000 guest rooms and 4 theme parks, 2 water parks, 5 golf courses, a shopping village, and a nighttime entertainment complex. Next week, we will have Dr. Aaron Lewis, a surgical oncologist at City of Hope, a comprehensive cancer center with locations in 5 Southern California counties, including Los Angeles, Riverside, San Bernardino, Ventura, and Orange. He sees patients at City of Hope's locations in South Pasadena and Arcadia, and is broadly trained across all aspects of surgical oncology and has a particular interest in complex gastrointestinal surgery and endocrine surgery. He is trained and certified in the Da Vinci robotic surgical system, so don't miss it, everybody. See you next week.
Thank you, Mr. Hoffman.
Thank you.
This has been the Southern California Business Report with Daryl McCance and Yvette Walker on KMET 1490 AM ABC News Radio, a show dedicated to highlighting successful Southern California businesses and the people behind them. Log on to the show's website and remember to visit the podcast page.